Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing a really focused analysis looking at just a short section from Ephesians 6, verses 10 through 13. Yeah, this part really sets the stage for spiritual conflict. Our mission here is simple. Figure out who Paul says the opposition actually is and, well, what power source is needed before you even think about engaging. We're not aiming for a huge theological debate, just extracting the, let's call it, strategic blueprint here. And it kicks off with this massive instruction, doesn't it? Urging believers to be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. That's the baseline.
It is. And what's really striking is when Paul says this, he establishes the power source before he even names the enemy. It's like because the threat he's about to reveal is so cosmic, so beyond human scale. He immediately says, look, your strength for this, it has to be external. It's got to come from God.
Right. Human effort alone is basically tagged as insufficient from the get-go.
Exactly. Insufficient.
So if our own strength isn't enough, it implies the enemy isn't just human. Right. Okay, let's dive into that. Paul says very clearly the fight is not against flesh and blood alone. That distinction changes everything, doesn't it?
It really does. It shifts the whole battlefield.
So if we're not just fighting other people, what are we fighting? What does he say?
Well, the text describes the opposition as essentially this complex structure. You could summarize it as cosmic forces of darkness. But it's the detail that's, really revealing.
Okay.
He doesn't just leave it vague. He lists specific categories. He mentions rulers, authorities, supernatural powers, and these wicked spiritual armies.
Wow. Okay. Rulers, authorities. That sounds very structured.
It does. In the context of the time, these terms often pointed to like different ranks or areas of influence within the spiritual realm. It suggests layers of command almost, an organized opposition.
Right, not just random bad vibes, but an actual structure.
Precisely. It's got strategic objectives, it seems.
And that detail is crucial then, because it explains why just, trying harder or being a good person might not be the whole picture. If you're up against actual rulers and authorities, you need more than just good intentions. You need that divine power source we talked about. The nature of the enemy dictates the kind of strength required.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you connect this back to the wider context of Ephesians,
okay,
Paul spent the previous chapters talking about very practical moral issues, things like managing anger, avoiding malice, speaking truthfully, how families should interact, real life stuff.
Right, the day-to-day conduct.
Yeah. So this warning, this appeal about spiritual warfare isn't disconnected from that. When he defines the enemy with terms like rulers and authorities, it suggests that those moral struggles he just discussed, they aren't just personal failings. Paul seems to be saying, look, recognize that these negative impulses, these temptations you face daily, they can be the visible edge of this invisible, organized spiritual opposition trying to gain a foothold.
So the cosmic battle plays out in those everyday ethical choices.
That seems to be the connection he's making, yes.
Okay, so the core takeaway seems pretty clear then. The source material here defines the conflict not as primarily human against human, but as this, supernatural battle against an organized hierarchy, a spiritual command structure.
That sums it up well.
And because of that, the power needed to stand firm, as Paul puts it, has to be drawn from God, not from ourselves. And the shoe detail Paul uses in naming the enemy, rulers, authorities, it really underscores the seriousness. This isn't casual. It's a call to be alert.
It really is. And that leaves you, the listener, with something to think about, doesn't it?
Go on.
Well, if the earlier parts of Ephesians warned against things like bitterness or anger or deceit, and then this section defines the enemy using terms like spiritual authorities and rulers.
Yeah.
How does it change things if you start seeing those specific negative moral struggles, not just as your own personal weakness, but maybe as strategic pressure points targeted by these specific spiritual forces?
If your struggle with, say, recurring anger isn't just a personality flaw, but potentially a tactic employed by a spiritual authority, how does that change your strategy for drawing on God's strength to stand firm against it? That's the implication to really mull over.